Okay, coffee or tea? I'm really a tea. Oh, hello, Shiny Crafty People. It's Tim Totten here, and welcome back to the channel. I actually just made a project that I think is really cute, and it was inspired by another maker on TikTok, and unfortunately, I can't find the video again. It's just gone, and I would normally point you to the video. I'm sorry I can't, but it was just real simple. They just literally just showed this. They didn't actually show how to make it or anything, so I figured out how to make what is a cup cozy, like a coffee cup cozy. And it's really cute because you can take it off. It's just made out of fabric, flat fabric with a button and some elastic, and it just goes on a simple, like a dollar store mug, and it makes it personalized, and it keeps it nice and cool in your hand. And I added to that the idea of making a mug rug, or people call them mug rugs. I love the name, a mug rug. It's a coaster with a little bit of batting, sort of like a smaller pot holder. And you've seen those on the channel already. If you haven't seen the video yet, you should check it up. I'll put it up here of how to do this particular thing where it's no binding at all. This is not a binding at all. This is literally a special technique. So anyway, why don't you join me down at the cutting table, and I'll show you how you can make a set of a mug rug and a mug cozy that you can give as a lovely gift to someone. So for this project, we're going to need some different types of fabrics, and I have a couple of choices here of things that I'm going to do. I could do something very flowery. I would use 2 fabrics for this, or I think I'm going to use these fabrics that I bought from the Dollar Tree. You can see a link in a video. I'll put it up here for my Dollar Tree video that shows where you can buy a fabric at Dollar Tree, possibly yours. They're at mine, may not be at yours. And so I'm going to use these 2. I think those will look good together. And you'll need to figure out what kind of coffee cup you're using. Now, I did talk earlier about how there's different sizes of coffee cups. This one's quite large. And in fact, when I measured this, it was 12 inches around. This one's only about 10 inches around. This seems more like a standard coffee cup size. And of course, I used a measuring tape to figure that out. So all we have to do is put our measuring tape around, just sort of like you're measuring your waist. And look at that. We're at about 10 and a quarter inches there for the full size. But of course, we don't need to wrap the entire size. The fabric is going to end on either side here. So in fact, if we went from the measurement there, we wouldn't want to go any more than about from 0 there to about 9 inches, and then have our elastic and a button to do that. So we'll use elastic and a button as well, some fabric. So let's go ahead and get this stuff ironed, and then we can get ready to go, pressed and ironed, and get going. Oh, I forgot. You also need some type of batting or padding. I'm going to actually use this real thin batting that has a fusible interfacing on one side. You could just use some cotton batting as well if you want to. I'm not expecting this to go in really high heat drinks, so I'm going to use this on both sides of the fabric. It'll give it some weight, and it'll give a little bit of insulation. All right, I have both of those pressed, and I'm going to decide which one will be the outer edge of the mug rug that I'm making. And so I think I like this to be the center. I can get a cool sort of, this is like a design that looks like outer space. And then this could be the pieces that fold over. So I'll cut this size bigger. I'm actually going to cut this at 10 inches, and I'll cut this as an 8-inch square. And that 8-inch square, actually, no, sorry, 6 inches, and this at 8 inches here. I'm going to do this one at 6 inches, and I'm going to take those squares and mount them to some of this material. I also need to figure out how tall I want my actual mug sleeve to be, and so I will measure that. If I look at this mug, it is 4 inches tall. Well, of course, I don't want the sleeve to be the entire 4 inches, so I'm going to make that, I want it to end up being about 3.5. So I'll probably do a 4-inch piece of fabric, but then when I cut my seam allowances off each side, it'll get closer to 3.5, and that'll work out really well. Okay, so 3.5, and I said by 9 this direction. It'll take about 1/4 of an inch off of each end, which will get us to our smaller amount, which will be about 8.5. So it'll be about 8.5 by 3.5 when it's done. Let's get those pieces cut out. This is actually a dish drying mat from IKEA, and I use that as my ironing mat. So I've got to decide what size I want, where I want my 6-inch square to come out of, and I'm fine for it to be out of this type of area on here. At least there's a little bit of pink in there. I don't know, maybe I want to go in this sort of space. I think I'll do it in this space over here. So I will measure a 6-inch square here, and I have a 6-inch ruler. I'll just make sure that it actually fits and that it's square, and it does look like that it is nice and square there. So I will go ahead and cut my 6-inch piece. It doesn't have to be exact. So that's my 6-inch square. And now out of the same material, I need a piece that I said was going to be 4 inches by 9 inches. So this ruler has up to 10.5 inches wide. So I'll put the 4-inch mark along the bottom edge, and then the 9-inch mark on this edge over here. And that gives me a 4 by 9 rectangle. That's because this was a straight line down here. So now out of this fat quarter of fabric, I now have those 2 pieces. My next step will be to cut some material here the same way. This is that iron-on material that I showed you earlier. And I'm going to go ahead and cut some pieces. I'll cut 2 6-inch squares, same way I just did the other. And another 6-inch square here. You could also cut the 6-inch square first, iron it onto that material, press it onto that material, and then cut out around. So I have the 2 6-inch squares that are cut there, along with the 6-inch square here. All right, and then I need to do another piece that is this size, and 2 pieces actually that are that size. And I'm gonna do these a little different. I'm gonna go ahead and bring in a 1/4 inch from each side. So this is 4 inches by 9. I'm gonna cut that a 1/2 inch shorter on each direction, which means I'm gonna cut it 8.5 by 3.5. So let's do 2 of those 8.5 by 3.5. In fact, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut it 8.5 by 7. And you'll see why in just a moment. I'm thinking, I wonder if you can imagine why I'm doing 8.5 by 7. So before I explain it, see if you can figure out before I do it. I feel like I'm teaching much younger kids. I know you're not that young watching this, but it's still fun. So I did that because now I can just cut this in half to 3.5, and it'll be the right size. So I measure up 3.5 along the bottom line, and this is now going to be 3.5 by 8.5. All right, so now I've gotten one of those rectangles, and you'll see as I put that in the middle, that would give me the 1/4 inch seam all around the edges. There's that one. I've gotten 2 of these squares that I cut the same size, but that's because this is not going to be seamed at all, and I'm going to just pile these on top of each other. Super easy. But now I need the backing fabrics. Now I said that I'm going to do a backing for the square for our mug rug, and I want that to be this is an 8-inch square since this is a 6-inch square. This is a very large mug rug, by the way. You can see it's quite large. You could make this smaller if you chose to. But I'm going to do an 8-inch square. So let me go in and make sure I don't have anything underneath that'll get cut. And do 8 by 8. Now, if this is not square, if the material isn't square, you can go a little more than 8 by 8. Cut it out because these two edges will be now accurate. Spin it around, and now you can put this measurement on those 2 measurements that you now made sure you cut straight. Those are now 8 by 8. And you can trim off the excess fabric. And there you go. This is now an 8 by 8 square. And that means this will be able to nestle right inside, and this edge will come over. All right. And then we have to cut another piece that's 9 by 4. I gotta figure out how to do it right. 9 by 4. 9 by 4. These rulers are wonderful if you can get them all figured out. Sometimes I'll spin my ruler around a bunch of times and try till I get the right measurements that I want. All right, now I have that other piece that was cut out, so I can bring my iron back in and press all of these pieces into place. The best thing to do is to follow the instructions that are on your package of material. All right, these are both now beautifully pressed there. I'll set those aside. And then we'll go ahead and press this material as well. All right, that piece is finished. I may give it a little bit more of just a press while I have a minute, but now we're ready to prep to sew everything together. I'm going to go ahead and mark where this is going to go on the inside. And if we actually look at where we would place this, we're going to need to, this is going to use the binding technique I've used in other areas. And I'm going to basically be cutting off at an angle all around this sides and then folding over to get a seam. So to do that, what I need to do is I need to go ahead and figure out where that is going to be, where that mark is going to be. So I want to give you a little better angle than I can show you what I mean. So one of the things that we have to consider is that we're going to cut at a 45-degree angle just outside of that point. If we go too close to that point, then we won't have enough fabric to turn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my 45-degree line that's going across here, and I'm going to place it down lower along the bottom edge, and then I'm going to cut at this angle. So I'm going to lay it on there, and then I'm going to get myself a mark here that's going to show me that I'm going to be off by 1/4 of an inch. So I've done this mark. I've put the line at the bottom. Now up here, I've come in 1/4 of an inch, and that shows me where I can chop off this corner. And I'm going to do that with all of them. But I want to use a special tool that I purchased for this use, and I'll get it out for you. I got a wonderful rotary cutting mat. This is by Quilted Bear. I bought this on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description below so you'll see how to do it and how to buy one. And this is so nice because it has great instructions in it. So you'll see right now that if I flip it over, it doesn't move. And that's because I've locked these things in. So if I take the locks open, see they were closed, I can open the locks and now it will turn. So what I can do now is bring my rotary cutter, my item that I'm going to do, right here on the top. And I've already cut that one corner, and then I can just go ahead and rotate it, super easy, and do the same thing that I did before. Putting my line right along the bottom edge, giving myself 1/4 of an inch mark, and take that off. And now I can just rotate it again. This makes it a lot easier for me to figure out where I'm doing this. If I was making a lot of these, I would need this mat without any question. These mats are great. They're sold by a lot of different places. This just happens to be where I got mine, and I got it at an inexpensive price off of Amazon. But you, of course, can find it at many different places. Maybe if you have a quilt shop that you go to. And there we go. All 4 of those corners are done. Now I'm going to remove this out of the way because now I've got to fold each of these edges over. I'm going to go to the sewing machine and sew over 1/4 of an inch here. And then I'm going to sew all of the rest of it together. So I will do that and come back right here to the table. I know I said I was going to go over to the sewing machine and sew these at 1/4 of an inch, but I'm going to sew these later. So I'm just going to I'm just actually going to press them at 1/4 of an inch. Now I am using my eyeball, but you may wish to use an actual, make a mark. It might be a little easier for you. I've been doing this for so long. I'm pretty good at eyeballing 1/4 of an inch. If you're not, don't worry. It's not something, you don't have to be, you don't have to have the same skills I do. The odds are you have skills in sewing that I don't about something else. So don't be afraid to mark it. Use a friction pen or a chalk pencil or something and mark that 1/4 of an inch. And actually, let me show you a real quick secret. You can come in here and instead of marking 1/4 of an inch, come in with a really light mark 1/2 inch. Here's a here. You could mark the 1/2 inch mark and then fold it over where this edge would touch your 1/2 inch mark. And that would do everything you need to do. Now I'm going to go to the sewing machine and I'm going to flip these. I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to fold this in half right here. And then I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam along all of those. Let's go to the machine. So here at the machine, I've gone ahead and taken this piece that I folded each of those over. I'm going to fold that up to where these two meet now. And I'm going to sew right through where those pieces come together. I'll sew right through there at 1/4 of an inch. And I'll do all 4 of them. I'll come and do the same thing here. I'll fold that in half so they are right sides together. Fold it right to the point where those two fold over. I'm going to keep doing the same thing. And just all 4 of those are going to go that way. And one last one. Now I use black thread. You certainly would want to use a nice matching thread so this would look prettier, but I want you to see how it looks. All right, now you want to keep all of those seams that you pressed in there, but you can pop these corners out now. Come in here and use a point turner and just point those corners out. See there? All 4 of those. Being careful not to reopen any of those seams that you folded over. And we didn't have to sew those yet because remember, we're going to stitch this entire thing down from the outside and it'll stitch over right on top of those. All 4 of those points just go in. And you don't even need to trim any of the fabric at all because all of that turns inside and you won't see it again. Get rid of these threads. All right, so that piece is now made. And you can go back to your piece that we created. And remember, it's going to fit right inside there. It'll fit right inside. Now, it's actually a little bit big. So I might want to just trim a little bit off of it. I'll do that first, and then we'll go back to the table, and I'll show you how to do it. All right, here we are. This needs to be trimmed just a tiny bit. It's a little too large, and so I'm going to cut about not quite 1/4 of an inch off. You can just adjust this to fit whatever works best for you. I'm just taking a little bit off of 2 sides that are next to each other. All right, and then now that should fit inside there. We can look at the sizing. It's going to fit in there, and then all you have to do is go in and fit it in there. Push it nice and hard into a corner, and just go around and do that same thing all around. Get it into that corner, here into that corner, and here into that corner. And now I'm going to use an iron to press this now back flat. And remember, this is where we folded those edges over. You can see where we folded those edges over. And now we can come back and just really press all of that. I love a lot of seam because it sets your seam, you set your folds. And look how pretty you have now a framed piece. Now you would come back and just top stitch all along the edge right here, and it will secure these together. All right, we'll do that, but then I want to come back and show you how to finish the pieces of the mug cozy. So for the mug cozy, we're actually going to need a button or something to connect with. Now, I only have a black button. I wish I had a white button. It would look better with these two fabrics, but I'm going to do a black button, and then I could choose whether I want black elastic or white elastic. And I think because I'm doing a black button, I'll do black elastic on here as well. And it'll look fine with the black thread that I have as well. So we'll do that. You could use ribbon if you wanted, just to do it where it ties on, but I don't think it'll hold on as well. So I'm going to get a little bit of black elastic. And I know I'm not going to go very far. So the elastic I'm going to do is probably just about a 5-inch piece or so. And I can measure that off or just kind of do it. I know that that's going to double up to 2.5 inches, but of course it's going to double up even more than that because then we're going to fold it in and out. So I'll do probably about a 4-inch piece, I think. Again, you can kind of practice this and play with it. We'll put the button on later. So what we're going to do is we have these pieces. I'm going to place one face up, put the elastic in at one end, like here, in the middle. And I can pin or clip that into place. So I do have some pins right here. Trying to open them with one hand while I do that. And I'm just going to do right in the middle along that edge. And I'll just pin. Yeah, I just stuck myself. Pin the other one as well. Now, I might decide that that's too much elastic. Maybe I want to do a little bit less. Remember, this thing is going to be about 8.5 inches when it's done, and you need at least 1.5 inches for that to pull when it goes. Now, it might go on bigger cups. So if it's going to be on a bigger mug, you might want to let it stretch a little further. So I'll actually bring it back out, and I can always come back in and adjust this if I want. So I've got my 4-inch piece. I folded it over. All right, I'm laying that flat, and I'm going to put the other one directly onto the top of it. And now I'm going to stitch around 3 sides and leave this bottom side open. And that's where we'll turn it inside out. Let's go to the machine. So here we are at the machine. I'm going to start at this edge down here, and also right along next to this batting fabric. I'm going to back up at the end there just to make sure it really holds in. And the reason I didn't do batting that filled is because I didn't want to have too much bulk in the seams. Go to the end of that batting and then just be ready to sew right along the other edge. Now I will hold it with my hands to hold that elastic there. I want to hold that elastic in place, but I want to take these pins out so I don't sew over it. So I don't want to sew over the pins. I'll hold my hand in place to really hold that elastic in there. Okay, it didn't move. To the end there and turn and just sew right down the other end. Now remember, of course, that we're going to backstitch again here because I really want this to be secure, because when I turn this inside out, I'm going to need to have that really nice and secure so it can easily fold inside out. Now you can do a couple things here. I'm going to get my scissors and trim the corners. I'm going to come up here and really trim off. You'll notice I left a bit of space. I left a little bit of space between that and the fabric, but I really wanted to get a lot of that off. Now, I didn't just go straight across. I actually came at an angle like this. And then I did it again at the same angle on the other side. And that means when this thing folds in half, those two pieces of fabric are going to really stay away from each other. All right, I'll come in here and turn this inside out. And because I really extra reinforce these stitches here, it's not going to rip those stitches out as I really manhandle and push this thing through. Now this is where it's vitally important that you do not use your scissors to point the corners out here. You need to use some type of a tool to do that with. And I have a turner, a point turner here. So it's like a $2 plastic thing from this, well, I don't know, inflation, it might be $3 or $4. I'm going to hold it in my hand here like this and push in and then use it to push out. See how it pushed that corner out? Same thing on the other side. I'll use it to really push that corner out. And then you can even run it along the sides here. So I'm using my hand to hold it, and I'm prying as I hold the fabric with this hand. So you see what's happening. I'm able to really get that to properly go. So that flattened that edge out. Same thing on this other side. I could do the same thing, put that in. I'm holding it with the bottom of my hand, and then I'm pushing, and you can see it. See how it's pushing along that edge? And it'll help to get that edge straightened out. All right, so that's been handled. I'm gonna go to the iron and press this, and I'll also, down at this end, push in the fabric all along here. See this? If I open that up, I wanna push that fabric inside, right? Push it inside, and then I can lay it flat. Let's go to the iron. So I'm here at the iron, and I'm gonna go ahead and press it. Go ahead and get all of it that way. Oh, so nice. And then, like I showed you a moment ago, I'm gonna go in here and fold these ends in. Now I need to push my finger, push that fabric to one side, and then fold it in, and I have that natural fabric material there, see here, that I can roll it over. And if you need to, just use a pin and pin that in place so it stays folded over. You can do the same thing on this other side. Pin that, fold it over, and pin it in place so you know that it'll stay over there. And then you can easily lay it down and press these as well in the right, push these with your fingers into the right place. And if you want, you can take the tip of the iron and use it to press that over. Oh, looks so good. So I'll get all of that rolled over into place, out of my way, and use my iron. Now, obviously I have, and you can actually do this. Take this, lay it flat like this, and then go ahead and lay both of those flat. You're not gonna sew it like this, so don't worry about this. We're just gonna get this in place so we can iron it. Point those corners in, those edges in. This helps us get all the fabric in the right way. And then I can put it down and then I'll flatten it back out to get those creases out of the way. And come back and do exactly what I did. You could hand stitch this if you want to. I don't like hand stitching almost anything. I will have to hand stitch the button onto place, which I will not like doing, but I'll do it because, you know, it's one of the few times I'll have to do that. So let's go to the machine. I'm going to stitch around this entire thing. All right, I'm going to go to this end that I put my pins and my folded stitched in first, and I'm going to go right to the very edge to edge stitch this. I'm not even using a 1/4 inch seam because that is a 1/4 inch fold, so you don't want a 1/4 inch seam. It's going to use about 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and I'm just using the edge of my presser foot here to do it. Now you don't have to do anything but that one end. Like you don't have to do this all the way around. I just think it looks cleaner, so I'm going to do it all the way around. But you could just do it on the end that you're trying to hold in place. And so now I've done that entire piece nice and flat. And what we're going to do is put the button on whichever side we want to stick out. I kind of like this side a little better. Let's look at it with a cup. See, we have the cup. And if we did that, we'll put on a button. And that'll come over here and hold on to that. All right, so let's go ahead and add the button on, and we'll see how that looks when it's finished. So there's the mug on the mug rug that we made, and here is the mug cozy. Now, you could do a few things a little bit differently than this. I'm gonna show you how it works, but you could add another button on the other side that would make it reversible. But the way this basically works is you put the mug cozy around it, pull your elastic through, and put it onto the button. And there you have a cute mug cozy. Now you could certainly make it a little bit longer. I think I might have made this, rather than cutting it at 9, I might cut it at 10 so you get a little bit more space there. And then the nice part is you're holding the handle. You can easily hold it. You can grab it like this. It feels, I wish you could feel it. It's like nice and strong. And now the only problem would be, is that it might not go well on a bigger mug. So I have this much bigger mug that's 2 inches bigger. I think if I were to do it on this mug, I probably would definitely need, you're gonna see here, there's a lot of space missing. And I don't quite know if I can get that elastic to stretch far enough. I'm gonna try, definitely gonna try. Oh yeah, it will stretch actually, but I think I'd wanna make a bigger cozy. So actually, let me show you another few things I might do for this, for it to go on here. You could round these corners so that it would be a little more rounded when it went on. You could make it a little longer. You could actually do the same design for this that we did, where we did the way the edges fold over. You could do this that same way. So by cutting the backing fabric about an inch, 2 inches wider, an inch wider on each side would allow it to fold over, and you would get this sort of detail around that might be kind of cool. All right, that is the mug rug and the mug cozy here. I think if I were gonna do it, I did say, you know, I maybe would round these corners a little bit. It's a bit sharp right now. I think it'd be fun to sort of round those a little bit and just figure out different options to do in terms of different color arrangements. These dollar store fabrics actually worked out really well. But what a lovely, cute idea, way to make somebody a gift set that you could just go get a dollar store mug and give them a lovely gift that fits them and maybe fits particular fabrics that they like. So until next time, I hope you try this set and stay crafty. Bye for now. Oh, what to do next? Oh, probably make something to go in here.